Hello, educators, and welcome to the workshop on promoting classroom inclusivity and accessing community supports, a guide for educators. My name is Shauna. I am a former ECE, and I am going to be navigating this workshop with you. Some topics that we're going to be navigating today include some information around inclusion. So, what is it? What does it look like? What are some things that might get in the way? We're going to learn a bit more about the How Does Learning Happen document, talk about some local community resources that you as an educator can tap into. And we all know that there's lots of wait lists and it's not always possible to access them right away. So, what are some things that you can do while you wait? And then I have a couple of reflective questions for you to take back and start to reflect on your practice and your environment and your relationships. So let's get started. Inclusion, our main topic, our main heading. We're going to be talking about it a lot. So I thought that we could take a bit of a deeper look into kind of what it means, what it looks like, because it can be very scary for a lot of people because they don't fully understand. So let's look a bit more deeper into it. So according to the Merriam-Webster definition of inclusion, it states that it is the act or practice of including students with disabilities within the general population, or the act or the practice of including and accommodating people who have historically been excluded. So this could include race, gender, sexuality, ability. The list just kind of keeps going on. So what does this look like in practice? So together, we're creating a set of practices and beliefs that involve educating all of the students, regardless of those barriers, so ability, social class, gender, within our childcare and our school, with the appropriate services and necessary supports. Inclusion can be related to everywhere and everything, but in childcare, it means having a high quality program that offers a variety of activities and opportunities within that environment. The purpose of the universal design is to remove barriers to allow all of the children, including the children with disabilities, to access the general curriculum. This might include the use of individualized accommodations. That means that our curriculum might be accessed by certain children using various accommodations to make it accessible to everyone. We could talk about the definition of inclusion until the cows come home, but let's take a deeper look into what this might look like for you in your classroom. Having an accessible room layout is incredibly important to allow opportunities for all the children to access the materials in the room independently. And think about things like if your walkways are wide enough to accommodate a child with a wheelchair. Creating open-ended experiences without an end result or goal allows for self-expression and creativity. The educators are promoting inclusive behavior and facilitating conversations to role model inclusive language and practices. The materials offered are developmentally appropriate for the children in your care, taking into consideration their individual needs and levels. The children are included and engaged socially with each other and with the educators. All of the families are welcome within the center and in your classroom, and that you're meeting all of the independent needs of the children. I don't think it's fair to talk about inclusion without touching on the barriers that might get in the way. One big barrier is having some sort of personal bias. So this could include your belief system. It could include making some sort of assumption based off a child's physical appearance. And it could even just be not having experience working with children with special needs or having a lot of knowledge around a certain disability. Another big factor could be environmental. This could include your physical environment. So maybe your center isn't wheelchair accessible. Perhaps your room layout doesn't accommodate certain needs. The materials available. Maybe you don't have the materials to offer children to accommodate their current level of ability. And funding. It's not always financially feasible for families or childcare centers to get assistive devices. They can be very costly, and that could play a huge role in it as well. I think that Dr. Seuss really said it best. A person is a person no matter how small. I wanted to include this quote because it really focuses on the fact that it doesn't matter that these people are tiny. They have their voice and they're heard and they matter. And that really goes along with the theme of inclusion. And we are those advocates for those children. How does learning happen? Ontario's pedagogy for the early years. This document was created back in 2014. This was a framework that was made for educators to reflect deeper on their own practice in their approach in delivering their curriculum. But it also really focuses on the way that children learn, and it gives educators more insight on how they can effectively start to build those relationships with those families and offer high quality care. How does learning happen is based around their four foundations for learning. So belonging, well-being, engagement, and expression. So let's talk about these a little bit more. The first foundation is belonging. This talks about having a sense of connection within the group in the learning environment, that each child's individual experiences are valued, and that they're able to make contributions within their classroom, community, and their world as a whole. So what does this look like? The children in the room are being valued and their individuality and uniqueness is appreciated. Everyone brings something special to the table and everyone's voice is heard and respected. The second foundation for learning is well-being. This talks more about the importance of physical and mental health. It incorporates capacities such as self-care, sense of self, and self-regulation skills. What might this look like? The children in your program are happy and healthy. The environment is creative to be conducive to their learning, and it focuses on encouraging that independent skill building. The third foundation of learning is engagement. This is being involved in focus when children are exploring their natural world. When the children are fully engaged in exploratory play, they are able to work on skills such as problem solving, creative thinking, and innovative skills. What does engagement look like in the classroom? Engagement is having opportunities for the children to express exploratory learning both independently and in a group setting, and that the environment is set up in a way that is inviting and exciting and grabs their attention. The final foundation for learning is expression. This can be shown through children's bodies, their words, the way that they use materials. Children have incredibly complex communication capacity, and the environment should be reflective on supporting and further developing those communication skills, and also providing opportunities to explore materials that allow for problem solving and mathematical behaviors. What might this look like for you? The children will have a safe and open space to discuss and display their emotions. Supportive discussions are being facilitated and encouraged by educators to promote language and communication skills, and that there are opportunities present for self-expression within your room. This is a diagram that is shown within the How Does Learning Happen document that just helps describe how everything is interconnected and based around the child. So the family is connected to the environment and the educator, and everything always goes right back to the child. Let's take a moment to discuss some of those local resources that you as an educator can tap into and that you could also share with parents to use as a resource to connect them and access these services. Arundel Kids is an amazing association that offers a variety of services. They offer speech and language support, blind, low vision, early intervention programs, physiotherapy, occupational therapy, and an infant hearing program as well. Dufferin Family and Child Services, otherwise known as DCAFS, is also an amazing resource within the community. They offer a talk-in program where parents can go and talk to a certified clinician and get supports on where they can go next on their own. They offer the ICANN program, which is where they have a resource consultant come into your child care program and offer advice and tips and create ISPs when needed. The Behavior Solutions Program is connected within the Ontario Autism Program and it is provided by DCAFS. They are also connected to child protection, so they do investigations and assessments regarding the safety and well-being of children. And they have the ICDP program, which is the Infant Child Development Program, which is there for those children who are developing or displaying some red flags and who may be at risk for developmental delays. As a former educator, I am very aware that not all of these services are accessible right away. They have wait lists. So let's talk about some things that you as an educator can do now. You can create a portfolio to help measure a child's accomplishments. Utilize your resource consultant, work with them, get some tips, get some pointers, and reflect on your own personal practice. You can also be there to support the parents and the caregivers as much as possible. It can be really difficult when they feel like they're doing all that they can and it's not enough. So share those small victories and be an active listener when needed, and strengthen your relationship with that child. Make them feel special and get to know them. Work on your environment. So make sure your room is as accessible as possible. Make sure you have adequate materials that support all areas and levels of development, and familiarize yourself with some professional documents that help support inclusion, like the CCEYA document, How Does Learning Happen, ELECT, and the Think, Feel, Act document. So let's bring us back to the beginning and touch base on where we started. So we talked about inclusion. What does it mean? What does it look like? What are some barriers that get in the way? And why is all of this important? We talked about some community resources that can be tapped into. I provided some tips for educators, because the goal of everything is to have inclusion be such a natural thing that we don't even think about having to create an inclusive practice. So before we conclude our time together, I wanted to leave you with a couple reflective questions, workshop of promoting classroom inclusivity